Folks, at first, I wasn't going to talk about George Zimmerman at all. I felt that you probably heard enough from me about George Zimmerman. But this latest episode in his life is just so crazy, I have to vlog about it. George Zimmerman was involved in a road rage incident with a man by the name of Matthew Apperson. Mr. Apperson also had a road rage encounter with George Zimmerman last September. That one can only be described as so bizarre, you'd probably see it in a movie if you haven't seen it in a movie before. In that case, Mr. Apperson said that he was in the same car as George Zimmerman, who was the driver, and they were going to go out and basically kick his ass. Why? I do not know. Mr. Apperson says that George Zimmerman has been stalking him. Why? I do not know. Mr. Apperson has a Facebook page. A woman by the name of Lisa Izzieri Apperson, who's actually quite pretty, and by appearances seems somewhat normal. But on the other hand, he lives in Orlando, Florida. He has now 2 altercations with George Zimmerman. There's got to be something, and he is a proud card-carrying member of the NRA, so there's got to be something wrong with this guy too. Now, with this, we have to evaluate George Zimmerman in this way. As a sick man. The jury that acquitted him of killing Trayvon Martin 2 years ago basically gave license to a creep who doesn't know anything more than figuring out ways to get into altercations with people that involve law enforcement, but are such that, had we not known who George Zimmerman was, we'd never hear about it in the national newspaper cycle. But because George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin, and that all-white jury of mostly women let him go on the craziest of ideas, we have to deal with not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, but 8 separate incidents involving law enforcement that have been nationally reported since that jury acquitted George Zimmerman. In just 2 years. Folks, if that's not crazy, you don't know what crazy is. This man has a massive problem. And then he has the temerity to go before a camera and say that he thanks President Obama for his case because Obama said that Trayvon Martin could be his son or look like his son if he had a son. And that is true. Zimmerman says the president fanned racial flames. No, he didn't. The president told the truth. And as far as the whole racial flames jazz, if you bother to look at the protests around the country, a lot of the people protesting are white. So Trayvon Martin has a multiracial support group, but George Zimmerman doesn't want to see that. But why should we expect George Zimmerman to want to see that? I mean, after all, George Zimmerman couldn't see that a 17-year-old kid was just simply walking through the neighborhood with a bag of Skittles to go to a store. George Zimmerman couldn't see that he should have left him alone. George Zimmerman couldn't see that any kid would be afraid if a guy was chasing them in the neighborhood And if he had any mettle that his father taught him, that kid would want to punch the heck out of his pursuer. That's exactly what Trayvon Martin tried to do when George Zimmerman confronted and put his hands on him. Trayvon Martin was defending himself. That law works both ways. I'm not here going to retry the case here, but I'm reminding those who are nutty enough to support what George Zimmerman did. And I will say this, you are a nut if you support him. It is not even up for debate. You just are. You have no respect for life. You don't like anyone of color. More often than not, you're generally older and white and you're angry about something. Just telling the truth. And you're just simply not really happy with your lot in life, so you have to get on social media and hunt for arguments with people of color, especially black folks. Oh, it just pisses you off. I'm making this video for you because I know you like to have that little itch scratched, you know? Come on. Flip it around this way. Some of you have sons and daughters. Some of you have sons that are 17 years old. Some of you have sons that could be Trayvon Martin even if they were white. How would you like it if someone was pursuing your son through the neighborhood when you had sent your son to the store to buy something innocently? That's it. And your son was by himself. And someone like George Zimmerman did what he did to your son. You would be pissed off. This is regardless of color. So if you can't put yourself in the shoes of the Martins, no, you're not human. Now, George Zimmerman has the nerve to say that the president should think about his life, when George Zimmerman, on multiple occasions, has shown an interest in coming close to ending the life of another person. Think about how he waved his gun to his ex-girlfriend and his ex-girlfriend's father. That's a threat. Think about the number of other times that George Zimmerman has been involved in a law enforcement altercation, or an altercation that was reported to law enforcement that involved a gun. This is a sick, 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 sick man. Paranoid delusion, perhaps? Whatever the case, he is very sick. There are others on Twitter who have basically wished something terrible would happen to George Zimmerman. I don't. I hope George Zimmerman has a dream so bad that it literally scares him straight. Because right now, he is a really screwed up, crooked guy.